I was just watching one of your TikToks again, man. You've got
I'm
no
sorry.
doubt one of the bravest people I've seen going after the how do you say, the organized religious community,
Yeah,
and
bro, the cabal.
doing a great job, I might add.
Thanks, man. Yeah, dude, I was believe it or not, I'm a lover of Jesus and I go to Bible study and the whole thing. Um I went yesterday I had one of those like incidents in the Bible study. They call it the fluoride stare, right? You've heard that. And to see these people I love with that fluoride stare, and you're asking very, very logical questions, simple questions, right? Like, if you don't believe in Jesus, you won't be saved. Okay, well, what does that mean? What did Jesus say it means to believe in Jesus? Because when I think of believe in Jesus, that means like you got a fucking professor teaching you calculus. Do I believe what you told me enough to use this calculus in real life? Could it be that simple? Oh no, it's got to be, you got to believe in the blood, you got to believe in the resurrection, you got to believe in the atonement. And it's like, that's all Paul. That's all Paul. Well, Jesus said, my blood's going to spill and, for the forgiveness of sins. Well, God, I know a guy got thrown in jail for stealing a car. Did he get thrown in jail to steal the car or because he stole the car? What are you trying to say? He was fucking murdered because he was a blasphemer. Like, hello. Like, anyway.
No, man. I mean, it's funny because I got to ask you that on the personal side, with when it comes to family and friends, have you get a little ostracized as you're breaking out of the mold, or was your family all in the same mentality of being very
Yeah.
open to this?
Yeah, I mean, 100% transparency. My wife's so fucking sick of hearing it. But uh
Got you, man. I understand
I'm
that one
like
for
I'm like,
sure.
honey,
Same here.
this isn't for the Christians even. Like this isn't for the
Mm.
people I'm arguing with, right? And
Yeah.
I quite honestly, if I didn't do what I do and serve in the way I serve, I wouldn't even bother responding to the comments. All those video comments, those are for people that are thinking that way or like, God, I wonder if this is true. This doesn't feel right. Like, and then, I just want to be the guy that says the thing you're thinking,
Well, you hit them so hard at the point where they have to make a pivot.
right?
They have to make a decision. Either I'm going to lock in harder, or I'm going to give this chance to ruminate and see what
Right.
comes from it.
Right. That's why I like the Socratic method, man. Right. And like it's very intentional, my strategy. And it's almost like this it's like conducting my own personal trial now, like this is fucking interesting. Have you ever noticed that I always ask questions and nobody gives me an answer to my question? It's the it's the fucking pardon my French, that's one of my favorite
Feel
words.
free, man. We're cool.
Okay, cool. I don't know much French, but I learned that word.
It's a good one.
Um, but yeah, it's programming, right? And that's the literal definition of a useful idiot.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
gonna
I mean,
program you and send you out,
yep.
and
Well,
do the
and I
for
think
us.
a lot of it too is having the right people you're talking to because, like I said, I've had some of these conversations with my family, and I say you're my mom, and she's very Roman Catholic. To tell her that the church is Paul's church, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
no.
and then but they'll deny that, and then they'll give you Corinthians, Galatians, Hebrews, Romans, and it's just like, holy cow, wow, this is like literally like failing a math test, and the teacher is going, "This is where you missed all, this is how you failed. This is everything you got wrong," and you going, actually. And then you use the incorrect math test to submit your argument. That's literally what's going on. It's circular logic. It's apologetics world, right?
So, Jerry, how did you come around to now be Coach Jerry? Where did this transition happen?
Man, it was in October of 2016. So up until then, I was a full-blown atheist, alcoholic. Uh, I had everything anybody could want, man. I had the six-figure career. I gotten really good at the job. I could do it in my sleep. I had the 401k, the house, uh, the beautiful wife, the beautiful kids. 3 dogs. Like you fucking, what's on the list? I got that.
All checked off.
Right. But what I didn't have was what I know now is love. Right. And that's what some people call now, I was stuck in my trauma. And, well, from what I've come to conclude in the work I do, that really what is trauma? Trauma is a perceived absence of love, whether it be chronic or acute. And so the cure must be to reinsert love and God and whatever anybody's cosmological, spiritual, religious, philosophical model. I'm not here to step on that. Even if you're an atheist, like I'm not here to step on that. I believe you have a view that is somewhere that's going to align with my view as well, somewhere in there if we get close enough and connected enough. Um, but so that's the state I was in, and I was on this fishing trip in 2016, and this was my annual steelhead fishing trip down to Idaho. Every year I did it, and I didn't know at the time, but that was my time to check out, to connect, actually check in,
Right.
connect, meditate, right? It was just meditation. I didn't meditate at the time. So I realized this was my week of meditation. Well, I must have hit the right spot, opened the right portals, right? Connected the right channels, but I'll never forget. I'm sitting there staring at my dad, watching my dad fish, and boom, I started a conversation with God started right there. And it's one of those, and this is part of why my heart goes out to a lot of these Christians is because I can tell by the way they push back against the things I say. They think I'm coming up with this on my own, right? It's like, no, this is all. I don't got time to bore people with my personal story, but like this is all coming from revelation that happened that was delivered to me in deep meditation, and then I later on found different established philosophies and theories that matched it. Like Gnosticism. I just got into Gnosticism within the last year or two.
Okay, I was going to ask you, say you read the Gospel of Peace,
But the not,
the Essenes,
yeah,
the
yeah, no.
Cathars.
So
It's like,
like Aaron Abke, these influencers that have just
yeah.
recently come into my field. What's his name? William Donahue. I love him.
Oh yeah, right. He's
Yeah,
the
but
old time Gen.
yeah, yeah. So a
And
lot of
it's
these
funny,
things were,
I wanted to make this point out that you
yeah,
found this truth within yourself. And for me, that was kind of some of my same story was in these
yeah,
moments of
yep,
clarity,
yep,
the truth was already revealed within. And I
yes,
would
yes,
find these patterns that have already been put in
yes,
history, and that it
100%.
confirmed it even more than.
Right, right. And that's why, like, I don't have a problem at all being so bold and hard in the paint on this. I'm not trying to piss people off, right? But the way I got this information and then later on finding things that were thousands of years old, there's no way I could have like subconsciously downloaded this shit. It was too much in alignment, too much of it. Um, and then I come across the Gnostics and I'm like, oh my God, this was actually revealed to me because I asked directly about the Bible and I got almost like a laugh. Like the response was like laugh. Oh yeah, you're asking about that thing. Um, and basically it's revealed to me that that was the demiurge, not so much in like a literal like evil god that thought it was the only god. It was more of like an egregore where we'll take anything and make it our god, and then that becomes our ruler. And then the archons are the rulers of that. That doesn't mean there aren't other dimensional entities in play,
And I
but
think
just the
something
level
you're
of
bringing up too
egregore.
is that you don't have to be locked into an actual theory of how it's applied.
Yeah.
You can actually have multiple versions of the story and still come to the same conclusion.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And like the real logical Occam's razor, right? The least amount of assumptions is the one likely to be true.
Yep.
Is okay, if this is true, which you believe it is, then and I believe it's true, not necessarily literal, but mythical. And myths are more true than anything because they continue to prove themselves true over and over and over time. But I believe it's a myth that represents the truth, and I believe these were divine revelations. I believe they were because could you imagine these guys didn't have 5G, they didn't have fucking emails and television, right? So they were locked in. So I believe, yeah, that is true, including the canon, including the canon. I do believe that was divine revelation. But when you attach the word only to shit, when you attach the word only to God, now you've made God small, you made God limited, and you've put God in a box. The only thing God cannot be is small and limited, right?
Oh, I don't
So,
quote many Bible verses, but the one that I do is Samuel 8, chapter 1, and it's real simple. It's if
yeah.
you have somebody in between me and the higher self, which is God, you're going to pay taxes. You're going to be pretty much a slave to somebody else.
Amen.
And
Amen. And
I break that down to discernment too with all these verses. If you allow anybody to
amen.
discern this information for you, you've given up your higher power. You're like,
Amen. Amen. And
wow.
the commands of Christ, right? Like people like the words of Christ, the teachings, let's get real. What were they? They were commands. I command you. Um, and it was all about love and personal relationship with the Father. Like he couldn't have been more clear, right? Imagine
Simplest
like
message.
a
The
father
simplest
like
message.
grabbing you by the collar and being like, "No, you don't get it. You've graduated college. It's time to move out of the fucking house." So that's what he's telling us. I'm going to the
Yeah.
Father. At the time you will ask of me no more, and I will not ask on your behalf. That's about as plain as it gets, right? Ask in my name and it will be delivered. But again, in my name, what's that mean? Right? I'm in you, you're in me. To be in Christ is to be in your true self. So people believe, pray to Jesus. It says right here, don't.
And
Don't
he
pray.
never asked you to. He
He
never
never
asked you
asked me
to.
to. He never asked to be worshiped. He never asked to be the basis of a new religion. And there's actually real strong argument that he was just teaching people to be better Jews, more mystical Jews,
Yeah, the Essenes. That was a
right?
sect of
The
of
Essenes, the
Judaism. That's
Nazarenes,
very small.
yes,
Yeah, the
yes.
Nazarene always starts to play into this
Yes.
whole
Yes. And then
understanding.
so what stemmed from his work and his teachings was, and I'll be hyperbolic and insert my own opinion here. So do with that what you want. But a Roman Trojan horse to create an anti-Semitic religion. because we know what the Romans thought of the Jews. So we're really supposed to believe that the Romans executed Christ and then turn around and had a change of heart. Well, I understand why real zealots believe that, because they also believe that God somehow found a life coach and became a completely different God from the Old Testament to the New, while still believing that the Old Testament is still the fundamental basis of the New Testament, while totally ignoring all the contradictions. God told you in the Old Testament how to be forgiven. Very clear. No bones about it. There was no, you turn away from sin and turn towards me, right? Turn away from my shadow and move towards my light. Christians don't like that because it's got to be good guy versus bad guy, God versus Satan. Problem they have that goes directly against the words of God, you know. And I'm using their nomenclature, right? I believe there is no words that aren't words of God. And I believe they're all words of God. I believe scripture is being written every single fucking day. I don't believe for a second that God just stopped
I'm done. I'm
the word of
done.
God.
That's perfect. Leave it alone.
Exactly. Exactly. I couldn't see how this is going to play out. Yeah, I'm gonna handpick 12 people to follow me. They're going to be illiterate. So that shows you how much stock I put in like the actual documentation of these words, right? I'm going to pick illiterate people. And oh, they're not gonna be able to document this journey. So we're gonna pick Paul. Okay, cool. Who am I gonna pick? I'm gonna pick a Roman Pharisee
Roman Pharisee, a
that's
guy who's never
unsuspicious,
met me, never
that who
met.
never met me.
Yep.
And oh, and don't pay attention to the shit I said about beware of the wolf in sheep clothing, and don't worry about, the Old Testament where it talks about tribe of Benjamin being of the wolves, and Paul talking about him being a Pharisee from the tribe of Benjamin. Don't worry about any of that. Don't worry about, any of that. Even Satan himself poses as an angel of light, and Paul receiving his revelation through a vision of light. Don't pay attention to any of that shit. None of it. Just what did Paul say? Right?
Yep. And
It's
I
the
think
blood,
if
it's
you
the
ever take the time
resurrection.
to look for controlling patterns, like what out of this
Yes,
information
psyops.
limits my
Yep.
ability in myself to find highest truth, you can see it throughout almost all of the writings. Especially
Yes.
if you start going into like a lot of the 14 out of the 27 possibly are Paul writings or Paul's books
Yep.
of the
Yep.
New
Yep.
Testament.
Yeah, yeah, it's 50% when you include its students. A good resource for this, like I am really good at seeing big overview things, connecting dots. What I'm not interested in is collecting all the fucking links and all that. Like to me, if that's what you need, you go get it yourself. Don't ask for me. But Rabbi Tovia Singer is a very good one. Of course, Aaron Abke. Aaron Abke is a little more like me, I would say. I mean, he's much more in the details, but I wouldn't call him a biblical scholar per se. But Tovia Singer is definitely a biblical scholar. Um, now, I love his take on Christianity, not so much on the law, but that's just me. But that being said, there are resources out there to clearly paint out what happened and the etiology of this book that we call the inerrant Word of God. And if we can, if we can, in our own heart and minds, overlook the fact that this canon was established and enforced through violence and oppression, if we can overlook that, and we can overlook the fact that the actual energy and spirit that Christ came to show us to embody was the exact opposite of that. And if we can overlook the fact that Jesus actually confronted that same energy, right, and flipped its tables, and if we can overlook the fact that he actually warned us about this happening, if we can overlook all that and say, this is the inerrant word of God, like you and I just can't have the same conversation. We're not gonna be able to
Mhm.
talk about it. Just the word God. Like we're not talking about the same thing. We're not talking.
You think at all the religions nowadays, especially the major ones, they've been able to use the lower self in almost everything that
Yes.
they write.
Absolutely, man. And like objectively speaking, like this stuff isn't like just woo woo airy fairy conjecture. Like objectively speaking, you can take a look at like David Hawkins' map of consciousness, or even Ken Wilber's model of consciousness. Very similar, very similar. And religion tends to keep people in the archaic level of consciousness. Maybe they'll get them up to the intellectual level, but they only get certain initiates up to the intellectual level, whereas the esoteric traditions brought the initiates up to enlightenment. So they take the initiates, they bring them up to intellectual, which on the maps of consciousness is like the highest end of the lower self's ability to be conscious. Once you grow past intellectualism, right, then you start getting into the higher selves where things are more abstract, more quantum. Well, in religion or on that map, you'll notice like the lowest is shame, and if you want, I'll send you this image if you want.
I remember Power versus Force that
Okay,
they
yeah, yeah.
broke
Okay,
down.
power
Yeah,
versus force, another one,
yeah,
right?
they break down the frequencies
Correct.
and
Yep. Power
truth
versus
too. Higher levels of truth, and you
truth.
can only
Truth.
have a
So
some.
what are the highest frequencies, right?
Right.
Truth. right? Love.
Authenticity and
Yeah,
love.
authenticity is even higher than love because we can love things inauthentically.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the map of consciousness, lowest is shame, highest is enlightenment. Somewhere in the middle ground, when you start breaking out of the absolute dumpster fire of existence, the absolute hell of existence, which is, let's be honest, 9 out of 10 believers are there. And they're just like, I can't wait till I die so I can finally find
Next.
heaven. Weird, because Jesus, the guy you should be following, Paul doesn't mention this, but Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is within. Did you know that? So if the kingdom of heaven is within, where do you think the pits of hell are? Think about it. Think about it. Do the math. Do the math. Time's up.
That King Dome. I mean, it's
The
everywhere.
kingdom, yes, yes. The body is the temple, right? And then we say, oh, things like frequency and vibration, oh, that's all like new age bullshit. No, 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 no. If you have distortion in the temple, you will not receive and you will not give. You will be distorted anyway. But on the maps of consciousness, so we go from shame to enlightenment within the upper ends of the lower self to break out of pride. So pride's like the top, like that breakthrough, that next breakthrough needs to go through courage. So if you take a look at what happens, you just listen to a sermon and say, what level of consciousness are they bringing me up to or pulling me down to or keeping me stuck at? And I listen to Christian radio all day. I work in my truck a lot. I do a lot of filming in my truck. I do client calls in my truck, and I'll listen to Christian radio all day. And someone asked me why I do that. And it's just like, well, imagine you live in Chinatown and you're the only one who doesn't speak Chinese. And then you're both talking about an apple. And they're like, you're not describing an apple, you're describing Satan. That's frustrating. Okay. So this is why I study it so much. Um, so religion keeps you at the level of pride at the highest. Because courage is when you start asking questions. And a cult will not let you ask questions.
Yeah, better not.
Lean not on your own understanding. Wow, that's weird because Jesus told me to do the exact opposite. Jesus told me to connect with the Father and ask the Father only. You're telling me to ask the pastor. What's the worst that could happen there? Right? It's not hard. So that was to your original question. That was kind of my breakthrough, that conversation with God. And then I started just attacking some of my own issues physically. I was told by doctors that I had to stop exercising and lifting weights for the rest of my life. I was 33 because I had, in their words, you have the lower back and shoulders of a 70-year-old man. I was
Right.
like, damn, that's tough. Immediately, I started studying holistic health, kinesiology, sports science, physiotherapy. And within 4 weeks, all my pain went away. This was 13, 14 years ago. I haven't been in pain since. So this whole shit about arthritis is not reversible. Like everything they say isn't reversible. They're full of shit. They say that with type 2 diabetes, which is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
with everything. You're so right.
With everything. Autoimmunity, the fact that they've broken autoimmunity down into all these different categories when the reality is autoimmunity is the body attacking itself. And if you develop it in certain areas of your body, that's where you've left holes in your field. That's where your
It's just
trauma.
it's telling you something's wrong. It's
They're
just
telling
letting
you
you
something
know
wrong. So if
let's
I
fix
get
something.
asthma, right, like where am I not inspired in life? Where
Yeah.
have I been holding grief, right? If I get some digestive disorder, right? What am I afraid to let go of? What is it that I've chewed and swallowed that I can't digest and assimilate?
Yeah.
Like it literally is that simple. It literally is that simple, but we've turned it into all the way up to cancer. And now type 3 diabetes is another autoimmune condition, which is Alzheimer's. Just inflammation in the brain. I mean, hello.
So this wasn't your field though of work.
No,
You were doing a
oh,
real
no, no.
job,
So I was a
a real
grocery store
job.
manager. I was a grocery store manager for 21 years.
Okay.
Managed a grocery store, 150 people under my watch. Um, I couldn't have been more miserable doing it though. And it was just horrible. So I began the process. I lucked out, found Paul Check. If any of the viewers are unfamiliar with Paul
Love
Check,
Paul.
okay, so
Love
you
him.
know Paul?
Oh
Okay, all
my
right.
gosh. Yeah.
So I found Paul, and bro, here's the story. So I'm up in my office doing my. This is how much I loved my job, right? Like I would wait all week. I wouldn't do any paperwork. I wouldn't pay any invoice. I wouldn't do any paperwork because I'd save them all up for my Friday. And like my last couple hours of my Friday, I would do all my paperwork and listen to a podcast. Well, one day I was like, well, I don't know what I want to listen to. So I look up this podcast called Barbell Shrugged. I was into CrossFit and weightlifting, right? So I was looking for a weightlifting podcast. Type in Barbell Shrugged and a picture of Paul Check. When I first saw him, I was like, who's this bald alien guy? And it said holistic lifestyle coach Paul Check. I was like, what the hell is a holistic lifestyle coach? And in my level of consciousness at the time, I was like, that sounds gay. Nothing against that term or those people, like
As
no,
you say, I know.
at all, nothing
In that
against.
moment, I got you.
Yeah, in that moment, and I didn't even have anything against them then. It was just
Yeah,
this
yeah.
feminine. This looks soft, right?
Right, right.
I watched it. It was I want to say 2.5 hour podcast. It started with this is what we were talking about earlier, how we discover things and later find out they're a thing, right? Started with because I was at the time into powerlifting, long rest breaks in between my sets, so 3 to 5 minute rest breaks. So I was like, oh, I wonder if I do some meditation or some artwork or something in between my sets, if that would help me recover and lift better. Oh, I found out it was working really well. This podcast opens up with Paul talking about how he does that in between sets, and it's showing him painting. And I was like, my jaw hit the floor in the first like minute of that podcast, and like 2.5 hours later, I was like, I'm signing up. I went from there. I signed up for his education system. I went and told my wife, I signed up for this holistic lifestyle coaching thing. Her first question was, what's a holistic lifestyle coach? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I Googled it. I got nothing. and, and
I love it
like,
though.
yeah, but this is my future. Um, she goes, you already have a great job. And I was like, I know. I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do with this, but I know I can't say no. Um, and the rest is history. I went through his entire master's program, integrated movement science 1 through 5, holistic lifestyle coaching 1 through 3. Got to be on his podcast. Got to spend several hours, with him, and just to absorb his energy, man. It's like you're in the presence of something. I don't know what it is, but it's something. It's something you haven't
Yeah, you
experienced.
talk about being plugged in. He's
Being
been
plugged
plugged in for
in,
so
and
long.
yeah, and I've met a lot of people in the space that are, you know, names, and they're all good people. Don't get me wrong. But Paul is the only one I've ever met that is what you see is what you get. And everything he says he does, and everything he says he's not lying, he's not a grifter. He literally does it.
I
He,
always sense authenticity with him more
yes,
than almost anybody else I've been plugged
yes. That's why he doesn't have 5 million followers, right? He's too
in.
authentic. Yep. But yeah, if you're wondering, he is. He's that guy. He is what you see is what you get. He's full blown authentic, and he is nothing but love. I learned to love from that guy, man. I learned to love from that guy. The first time I hugged him, and he's like, "I love you, Jerry." I was like, "That's real." Like, wow. So, so good shit. Yeah. So that's what that was my path, man. Like, it was literally just reversing my own stuff, and then as the universe does, it just delivered me what I needed at the time and what they needed. And so I started out working with a lot of like MMA fighters, believe it or not, jujitsu fighters. Um, and then it was like fat dads. Not to be derogatory, but
I
that's what
got you. No,
that's
no,
what they
it's
were
part
calling
of it.
themselves.
Hey,
Hey,
everybody. Hey, I see some MMA guys going to Fat Dad phase too, man. We
there
all have
you
our
go, there
own
you
weird
go.
stuff.
Yeah, like someone say, I'm past dad bod, bro. I'm at fat dad. So, so there was that, and then um, I had a physical location for a while, and there was a psychologist that moved in across the hall from me. And you know my take on therapy, right? And so I was like, what's this all about? Like, what the hell? Um, and that guy mentored me for like 3 years, and one of the smartest men I've ever met, probably the second most intelligent man I've ever met besides Paul Chek. And just a great dude. But we were so aligned in so many areas, but like spiritually, we weren't. Like he had no working definition for the divine. And I was like, I think this is what's missing. This guy knows everything but that. Um, and so for like 3 years, he mentored me, and he was the one really that blew the lid off of how broken the therapy system is. Like these things I say about therapy, they aren't my own opinion. They are what I was like intuiting, like, and then he just basically point blank, he's like, therapy is fucking broken. He's like, it's people like you that are gonna make a change. And so he gave me his full blessing. Not that I needed it, but it did feel good. He gave me his full blessing. He's like, you just keep doing what you're doing. Don't change the way you do it. Don't you just he goes, you just be smart with the notes you keep.
That is so neat, though. So in the beginning, you even had a chance to see the other side, and he was very authentic in his position and his results,
Yes.
and what he was seeing, his capacity, and the limits that come with that.
Yes, yes. And I would even say like he was in a position where and this is what I don't want to say frightens me, but concerns me about the state of just the collective, is when we get to a point where we think we're getting the best treatment we can, and this is the best it gets. Because we live in this area between pain and injury, right? We're mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And we live in this area between pain and injury. And generally, we don't take action. We get to injury, and then we deny it. And then we continue to get more injured. And then eventually, we're like, I got to do something. And then what do? We get something that just brings us back. We're still in the pain zone, but we're not in the injury zone anymore. And we think this is the best it gets. The reality is, you can fully go to the zone of optimization, but we don't think that way. So I would say that he was probably in that space where he thought his treatment, his therapy, the results they were getting, and the timeline they were getting them were the best they could get. It's kind of like a doctor when they're when they're like, well, I tell people to eat better, but they don't listen. And I remember asking him, I was like, because he would mention things like fitness and exercise and everything. And I would say, well, yeah, you tell them, but what are you doing to coach them up to do it? Well, I'm there. I'm not in charge of when they schedule. I can recommend it. Da 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 da. I was like, yeah, but you got a guy right down the hall does this all the time. Why aren't you referring out? And he's like, oh, it's kind of like a light bulb went off.
Yeah.
So he was just stuck in this trance, as we all do. We all get in our trances. Um, but long story short, like after about 3 years of, and I don't want to sound like bad, like bragging or anything like that. It's not like I was his therapist or anything, but he did call me for sessions and stuff, which I
Right.
thought, wow, there's something to this. So I was able to take what already had put together with Paul Chek. Stephen Walensky is a big one for me. If no one's heard of him, I recommend his work on quantum psychology. Obviously, Dr. Carl Jung, Enneagram personality, like all these things that I was already doing, and he was able to help me really apply that stuff in a clinical setting and get past people's defenses and recognize cues and things, and really leveled up my coaching considerably. But I was also able to see what was missing in his approach, and it was like it's always love, God. You're talking about all these things that are just an absence of love. That's it,
Yeah.
right? Drawing boundaries. Well, what is that? That's
And
loving other people more than you. Like, I mean,
you're bringing back the same exact thing though. What's really we're missing, and
yeah,
you say that one word,
yeah,
that is love, and then
yeah,
and facing it inward.
yes,
I mean, it's so profound. I got into this space doing a nonprofit almost 15 years ago. Need more hope, and we would do little sessions with people that want to try holistic recovery for PTSD and for veterans, and it would be we get access to all different kinds of therapies, but the 90% of them it's limited to the physical side. Now, a lot of times
yeah,
it's a bridge to the
yes,
spiritual side,
100%. Yes, yes. It is a stepping stone for sure.
and that's been beautiful. But as I spend more time with all the physical modalities, it always comes back to full circle. If you don't come to this side and meet both ends, you're going to be off balance. You're never
Ex
going to find it.
exactly. And to that point, it's like, why do we wag the dog so much? Why do we dance around so many different things and call it so many different things, different words for the same thing? Could it be as simple as that's the scariest topic in the history of the world for people?
Yeah,
Right?
I
If
believe
you say,
so.
no, God is, well, what is God? God's a
How
jealous
do I
man
get
in
to
the
where
sky.
is he within?
Yeah,
Is
God's
he
a
part
jealous man.
of?
Yeah,
Is there even
exactly.
a limit? Am I the spark of? Is there, or is it
Divine
right here, right now?
exactly. Well, it tells you in the Bible that you are God.
Yeah.
Literally it does. But uh, you
They
know,
cherry pick that out
Psalms,
though when you
it's a
talk
big
to
cherry
other
pick. Psalms
people.
82:6, it doesn't matter when Jesus said, does your scripture not say you're gods? I say you're gods. He didn't fucking mean it. You
Yeah.
know, be careful to lean too much of your understanding on the words of Christ only. Yeah, that's smart. That's why I'm only giving 5% of the New Testament,
No,
bro.
and then it's funny because I got to these books too that were like initiate books or like say secret
Yep,
clubs or
yep, yep.
it's everything we're talking about. They
Yeah,
just
the
don't think the
Rosicrucians,
masses
the
can
Knights
ever get it.
Templar. Yep, and
Yep.
that's why all of that has to be turned into Illuminati.
Yep.
Because if we give you a bad guy, that's part of the psyop. Here's the bad guy. It's called Illuminati. Well, what is Illuminati? Oh, it's a secret society of Satan worshipers. It's like, oh yeah, that's bad. I don't want anything to know. No.
And there are dark groups. There are
There are
people who
dark
use
groups,
dark
right?
energy and dark, but that don't mean that I'm all. And
Right,
the
and
biggest
and do
thing
you
too is
really
that
understand?
there's always a choice. I think everything we play the
Totally,
victim card so hard, where it's still this whole game is by choice.
totally, totally. And do some organizations choose to worship evil? Yeah, absolutely. But there's also occult practices that are designed to integrate your underworld, right? Your shadow side,
Oh
which
yeah.
is your darkness, right? And so it's not that they're worshiping darkness, they're integrating darkness. And you
Yep.
can't integrate darkness if you don't stare it right in the face.
Because it's
And
both
you're really looking
sides.
at God. Yeah, you're
You
just
can't have
looking at
one without the
God.
other.
You can't. You're just looking at God. I'm sorry. You're not looking at the God that you've painted and projected, right?
Yep.
But you are looking at God, and there is nothing that is not of God. Oh, get out of here with that new age Hindu bullshit. And you're like, yeah, that new age shit that's twice as old as your new age shit. But let's just yeah, and let's ignore the fact that the Bible like directly either quotes or stole from the Bhagavad Gita. Let's just forget all of that. Let's forget the fact that they have Brahma and Atman, which is just the same as the Father and the Christ. Let's forget, all these different parallels and correlations. And let's not ask where Jesus got his teachings from either, because he went from like carpenter's son to, you know, going around in temples and bothering Pharisees when he was 12 years old with his stupid questions,
Yeah.
which I
Destroying
that
the records
I
they
can totally
have.
relate to that, right? I
Yep.
can totally relate to that, right? Sitting there asking questions and nobody understands what you're saying. But back to the therapist thing. Could it be because that's the scariest thing for people in the world to face, that the therapist will not face their own fear of love, and that's why you don't get to face yours?
Well, the unhealed can't heal.
Nope.
And a lot of these therapists are running around the same exact way without the information. And
Amen.
my heart actually goes for them. I don't
It
feel
does.
there's no
100%.
negative energy towards them whatsoever. It's just love. I'm hoping that
100%.
that ripples through.
100%. In fact, I hope you learn to heal, because when you do, you're going to be the most valuable resource, because unlike a guy like me, you have the clinical training, you have, the PhD and all that. Now it's only ED so far, piled high in D, PhD. But when you know the truth about healing, then you can truly take your own program and you can have the balls to just totally just wipe anything out that no longer works, and don't care how long you've been studying it or how long you've been trying to apply it. That's when you know you're coming from a spiritual place, right?
And I think what you're saying though is it's so simple, but most people they think it's this very complex
Right.
Rubik's cube of information they have to figure
Right.
out.
We've been programmed to make things hard, like, and that's because it's so damn confusing. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of, like, in the spiritual world, of implants. Have you heard of implants?
Go more. I'm
Okay,
not
so
sure if
so implants, so it's like in some of the, like, real deep esoteric stuff, you start getting like alien technology or alien philosophy and whatnot, which, like, there's a big part of me, it's like, yeah, it's probably something to that. We need to look into that. But some of them really believe like it's a literal, like, entity came in and implanted a chip in you and they're using it to monitor you and all this. I'm not saying it's not true, but it doesn't have to be that literal, right? This egregores are just as real as anything else. So what an implant is literal programming. And I found my clients really, they latch on, they love this explanation because it really helps them objectify it and make it practical. But so imagine that you have, basically, our personality, our behaviors, are a manifestation of our biggest fear, which is this inadequacy beliefs that run us. It's called the false core. And, it's something like, I am unworthy, or, I'm useless, whatever. Schemas in the therapeutic world. But that is the base. That is the root that runs everything. That is like the pilot light. From there, we create a false identity. That false identity is, its entire mission is to hide, overcome, or disprove that inadequacy belief. This shit is so simple. Okay. And this is going to get to the implants, I promise. From there, we create strategies that we call behaviors. Some people call them coping mechanisms, escapes, but distractions. But those they're power cords, and we plug them into external sources. And that's part of our strategy to overcome that inadequacy belief. That is the thing about us that we're so unwilling to face, that we'll do anything to hide it or make it go away or overcome it. We think we are empowering ourselves by doing these things. Welcome to people pleasing. Welcome to not drawing boundaries, right? Welcome to not taking care of myself. Addictions. And because that continues to drain our power, we feel more and more powerless. And that inadequacy thing just keeps fueling that fire. So we keep doubling down on the pattern, and eventually we become exhausted, depressed, anxious, mentally ill. The reality is, when we dismantle those inadequacy lies, the false identity changes, because that thing's in flux, bro. Like, people think they know who they are. No, your false self is fucking minute to minute. So we can step more into our authentic self, our true self. The I am. Hello, hello, you're all I am. You repeat after me. I am God. I am the life, the truth, and the way. You are the life, the truth, and the way. No. I just shared a video on that today. I am. Anything after I am is a lie. I am. It's a state of being. It's a state of awareness. You're not the experiencer. You're the observer and the awareness of what the experiencer is experiencing. Anything that comes after I am is a lie. I am sad. I am broke. I am confused. No, you are. You just are. So that's where the power comes back. You realize that there's nothing to prove, there's nothing to overcome. You just get to take your power back and see what you can do as a fully powered individual. Oh, and why did Christ command you to be like him? Because all you got to do is remove that, because that's the only thing Jesus had different than you, is he didn't have that. So his power source is always plugged into the Father. Oh, fuck. That's heavy shit, right? Now, implants. That inadequacy belief is an implant. So implants are, hold on one sec. Hey, is everything okay up there? 17-year-old daughter and my wife. They're animated. Back to the implants. So that represents an implant programming. Think of an implant as something that you were so unconsciously aware of. You're only aware of it unconsciously. That literally everything that comes into your field must be filtered through that implant, and it must match the code that that implant is putting in you. So the code of I am unworthy, the code of I'm just a worthless sinner, the code of the reason why I love Jesus is because he spilled his blood for me. Well, what does that say about God? That that was the fucking what the invoice said. You can't question God. The fuck I can't. It says right here I'm supposed to. Like, test all spirits. What the fuck do you think that means? Wake up. So that implant must match. All the things that come through must match. This is why people can't make change because they don't understand the root. They can feel better for a while, but they always regress. They always go back into pattern. That's how that works. Like a literal implant, what you must do is change the base belief around those inadequacies. That changes the implant, which changes the code.
Do you hack the implant, Jerry? Is that what the
Yeah, you hack the implant. You recode. You literally
you
just
know the implant? So you know the
you recode
programs
the
there
implant.
because I've the concept. I love the implant. Like that, I've heard it presented in that way. I've heard the
Yeah,
program, other terms, but I like the implant. I think I can see why
yeah,
people would catch on to that one and want
yeah,
to.
yeah. And I find people like it. It's really safe. And I find it's like actually more poignant, right? More profound. It's really safe, but also too, when you tell somebody they've been programmed, it's like there's something wrong with you. And it's like, fuck you, I'm not programmed. Fuck you. You know? Isaiah 19:6-3 says, blah, blah, blah.
No, well, the implant with itself means it's something external from me. It's not me. That also disconnects. You know, one
Correct.
of the biggest things we always talk about is like when people we go into dark thoughts, and someone I'll talk to you about later on is we're the space in between the thoughts. You know, us
Amen.
detaching from that is so
Yep.
powerful. And that's why I love when you said the implant. I'm like, oh, that's I'm using that one. That's
Yeah.
great.
Use
That's
it.
cool.
Use it. Please. Please share it with as many people as you can. Yeah.
But I think those simple concepts are a lot of times what we're missing. These
Yes. Yes.
allegories were
It's
meant for a reason. That's why they did make the
bro.
Bible and all these religious books and allegories
Bro.
because
That's
we
why
could get it.
he wrote zero fucking gospels. Zero.
Yeah, everything in
We're supposed
allegory.
to believe Jesus was God, but also illiterate.
And he said
Or
everything is an
overlook the
allegory.
fact that
Yeah,
this needs to be written down.
yeah.
What? Sorry.
Everything is a storytelling that we can understand. The way you're breaking it down.
Yes, it is. And when you say the Bible's a myth, people get offended because they don't know what myth means. Like that's an honor.
Oh
That's an
yeah,
if someone were to tell your life story in a mythical frame, be like, well, that's not literally true, but that's me,
yeah.
right? But you know what? It's not only you, it's everyone else listening to the story. If we just tell your story literally, people aren't going to relate. I mean, they will relate, right? But when you tell it in this mythical framework, otherwise you got to really like do some mental jujitsu to be like, well, explain the Epic of Gilgamesh then. Oh, that was a false. Yeah, but like if it's saying the same thing, it's saying the same thing, you know? Um, so we have to do this mental jujitsu to be religious. And that's where the anxiety comes from. That's where the shame comes in because people really believe I'm not worthy. Well, why is that? Because I don't really believe this. Must mean I'm not smart enough. And that's another part of the psyop, right? It's like you're really literally relying on something that's out of someone's control and it's actually going against their God connection. If you don't believe something in your heart, it's because God told you not to.
So we're built on this idea that we can't trust ourselves.
We
We can't
can't trust
trust
it.
on intuition.
Don't trust the heart, right? Don't trust the heart. Well, it also says that the only commandments that fucking matter are love. And where do you love from? Where else do you love from besides the heart? Oh, your head. Good luck with that. Have fun. Let me know how that goes. No, that means that if you're single eye, we got to put this together. If your single eye is not towards God, then your body will be filled with darkness. So if your body's filled with darkness, your single eye is not towards God, your pineal gland is not dialed in and connected to the creator and your Christos body, then whatever your heart desires will be desired from your false self, false identity, which is an attempt to overcome or ignore or disprove your false identity or your false inadequacy beliefs. This shit is so fucking simple. I've distilled it down to about three or four different little frameworks that people, when they integrate them, that you're unfuckwithable. Like you can't, if you have no inadequacy beliefs, how are you gonna like seriously be powerless? You're not, right? If you
Or let
fully
anybody
integrated
else's input help.
Totally. If you fully integrated Mother, Father, God, you're not going to fall into these victim archetypes of the saboteur, the prostitute, you know, the wounded child, the perpetual child. Like you just won't. If you know how to trace, dismantle, and dissolve the energies created from these anxious moments and everything like that, there's fucking nothing that can get in your way. Absolutely nothing.
I
Um,
think how powerful what you're saying is we're living in an environment that is created to create us in the lower, I call it the lower prison. And it's still by choice. It's always by choice, but we have the option to do this research, but we have to make the choice to make changes to handle what they're going to keep adapting. to keep us
Yeah.
in our lower selves.
Yeah. And that's why Romananity or Polyanity or whatever we want to call it, that's why they created it to be that way of you cannot question these things. It's very much by design, very much by design. Like, I'm going to give you something that makes no sense. It's going to scare the shit out of you, but don't question it. Okay, so I'm going to have all this pent up anger and anxiety. So what do I do with it? I'll go on TikTok. You're going to find some guys that say some shit that really trigger you. Let them have it. You know?
Oh, that's great, man. You're the ripple in the matrix, though, that I think that the system knows there. And they have to have we have to have the balance. Like if they can have as much on the dark, we have to have as much on the light. It's
Yep.
you have to have that equilibrium. And right now you can tell, like that even in the context of the younger generation, it resonates. Well, they've never had the most of the older generation never had the opportunity even to see this information
It
without
changes.
having to do the work. A lot of the
Yes.
younger generation gets access without the work, and you could tell it resonates, and they don't want to go
Totally.
back. They can't go back.
Totally. They can't go back. Once you found God, what are you going to do? Go back to not God? No. Uh, like, look, I've met a lot of geniuses in my life. Clearly geniuses. Like, there's no argument in it. I am not one of those. So if I can consistently, predictably have a conversation with somebody that's been a lifelong Christian, and within a matter of an hour, I'm not converting anybody, but them going, oh my God, finally something that makes sense. Right. And I've only been studying the Bible for a few years. So I'm not a genius, not a scholar. Uh, if I can do that, yet the person who'd been studying the Bible their whole life, went to seminary schools, actually getting paid to teach people about God, couldn't get through to that person. What does that tell you about what they're teaching? And what does that tell you about the power of truth?
Like the cognitive dissonance. If people
Yep.
understood how well it works and how well we've been studied to be more like an animal, so we will
Yeah.
not change our thoughts.
Well, and
It's
that's another,
painful. It's very
right. That's
painful when
it.
people do it.
You're 100% right. And, because people's consciousness, and this isn't a knock, we all have to go through the levels of consciousness. So if you hear this and something resonates with you and you take it personally, you think I'm attacking you, that's not exact at all what's happening. Really, we have to go through, right? It's like judging a baby for being 2 years old. Like you got to be two for your three. Um, is is when you say these things, when you say these different things and it triggers people and things like cognitive dissonance, right? They just take it personal. No, what is cognitive dissonance? That is proof that you have an implant, that the information that comes in doesn't match the code that comes out. That's all that means. That's all that means. Um,
It brings
yeah,
up the video that you just it sparked me to have this finally get on this and get back to interviewing again and having these conversations and getting active. When we're talking about people and their dark thoughts and the dark patterns
yeah,
and understanding that it is an implant. This is not you. And
yeah,
if you're going through something right now, make the call, go get help.
yes,
I'm also adding to that is that you don't have to stay in this. Once you start exposing yourself to other information, other programs, you get a different result. It's simple as math.
yes, yes. Input, output, right? Input, output, and like, look, my personal belief is definitely other dimensional entities in play. But I also
As
believe
numbers
it's other.
go, I have a hard time arguing with you because it makes more
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah. I definitely think that, but I have a little different take on that than most people that believe in that world. Like, it's tend to be seen as the enemy. They're the enemy, they're the bad guy, right? And on a certain level, yeah, objectively, right? Well, what's a bad guy? Let's define that. Yeah, they match. But I tend to look at it this way, that there is no entity consciousness or system of entities or consciousness that are going to outsmart God or they're going to foil God's plan. Um, Also make it clear I don't believe God is like a man in the sky or even like a finite
You know what they
being.
call it? Sky Daddy. There's no
Yeah,
Sky
Sky
Daddy.
Daddy, finite
You're hurting
being.
somebody's heart right now.
Yeah, I believe it's 100% unknowable. Um, which is the Valentinian philosophy and a lot of Eastern philosophies as well. I believe it's just a concept that's completely unknowable. Um, but uh, so so I believe everything works for God. I believe nothing can fool God, but I also believe it's a cosmic game, right? So my job is to fucking push you to God, right? But I'm gonna have a lot of fun fucking with you. And the longer you don't get it, the more fun I get to have. That's the way I choose to look at it. And you get really aggressive ones. But that shows maybe. how stubborn you are in learning your lesson, but also maybe how powerful you are as far as your spirituality and your actual connection and your abilities. Um, because you're picking on up on things that a lot of people are under attack and don't even know it, right? Some people know it so well they're hearing voices, literal voices, and then they get diagnosed with schizophrenia, and then they give medication that gives them more fucking mental illness, and then they try to get off the medication, they experience withdrawal from the medication, and the therapist in the clinic says, "Oh, you're relapsing. You better take more medicine."
You know, that was my first interview 4 or 5 years ago with Dr. Jerry Marzinski, and that's all he,
That was you. Was that you?
yeah,
That was your channel where I saw that?
yeah, that was
Oh,
me. That was me. That was me.
oh my God. So I just finished with a client that I've been working with for 12 months. And when he first started, he was suicidal, bipolar, on all these medications. They were starting to wonder if he was schizo. First of all, his personality was nowhere on the schizoid spectrum, so they were way off base. But um here we are 12 months later, he hasn't had a manic episode in a year, hasn't had uh, he's down to like 10% of his original dosage of his medications, no depressive episodes. And, he's not perfect, but he's definitely in that. Any issues he's battling now is he just hasn't had enough time in the sun to really trust it. You know what I mean? It's like, he's like, oh, the sun's great. When's the rain coming? But, like, yeah, yeah, there was some stuff going on, right? But here's the thing, we didn't even have to talk about that. We removed
That's
the
interesting.
demons without talking about demons.
Well, here's the question for you: is that a lot of times, my argument goes to people is that they're attracted to frequencies, they're attracted to
Yep, yep.
energies,
Frequency
and you are
senses.
giving
Yep.
what they need. Once you
Yes.
don't give them food, and mind you, this could be in a physical sense, in an allegory sense, in a
Yes.
computer program
Yeah,
sense.
it doesn't
I'm not
matter.
trying to
It's
label
all
it.
the same. It's all the same. Yep. Yep.
But with the understanding of what's actually going on around you, and you understanding that you're feeding whatever it is that's
Yes.
giving you that return, you change that, you get a different return.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. You stop feeding them, and we think in terms of Loosh as like just negative energy, right? But Loosh is positive too, so you can feed the angels, right, as well. And that's what happens, and that's why the turnarounds are so quick. Like, it doesn't need to be years of clinical therapy, right? It's like, how do we reinfuse love where love is missing? We call that trauma, we call that somatic storage, but no, that's just a part of you that you're trying to hide from God, actually. And you think that's part of you that isn't lovable. So what would God say about that part of you? Well, if you're being honest, God loves that part of me too, right? Because even the parts of me that I think are great, like compared to God, they're fucking nothing, right? So, like, let's get real. God loves unconditionally. And I'm sorry if that flies in the face of your fucking theology. If God is love, how could God not love unconditionally? Folks, none of this is hard, right? You almost got to be like not very smart to get it, I guess.
That's why
But
I think I do great. I
yeah,
do
me
really
too. Yeah, it's like
nice
that's why
job.
it clicks. It clicks. Um, so it really is like I was having a conversation with a guy last night about this, and it's just like, he's got sex addict, and it's like, that's weird. You get laid a lot. Yeah. God, who do you think delivers the women? God's so disappointed in you, he keeps putting pussy in your face. Okay. Like, isn't that beauty of the way God trains you? He gives you exactly the exercise you need every fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
And I say he, right? Hyperbolically.
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you get it.
There's no
Nomenclature.
label on it.
Yeah, exactly. Nomenclature. But uh, and that's really what it is, guys. Trauma healing, all this stuff.
I did want to ask you about the somatic side of things
Yeah, yeah,
because I know you
yeah.
talk about it on occasion, and I know this. I'm trying to be full circle. You spent mostly on one side, but I'll bring it back to the physical side a little bit
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
still
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
a very
Yeah, you got to
interesting
keep me in
one that
line
most
now.
people talk about.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, somatics. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, was there a specific
I
direction you wanted?
mean, in general, if you're going to explain to somebody who doesn't know anything about it, and this is their first time having any information about somatic and how it, like I said, I don't want to even take away from your power on it.
Yeah,
How your body handles emotions, how it holds things in certain places, and what's possible with it. What kind of
yeah,
what's
yeah,
the options are
yeah.
there?
Totally. So maybe we'll start like broad and just distill it in. So on a broad view, like, you are everything, right? There is nothing that is not you. A non-local connection, how energy works, right? Physical matter being just a construct, it's a generation of reality. Um, so that in mind, like, whatever you're experiencing is something you've distilled down and stored and kept, right? You've chose to hyperfixate on that. Um, and don't take that personal. It's just a human condition, right? So that's what we call trauma, right? It's stored energy. As we start distilling it down and get it to the physical body, what we identify as ourselves, what we can say, this is Jerry, this is not Jerry. That is a physical vessel, the container, that's the soma. Okay. So you have the soma, of course, you have like the causal body, which is the soul. You have the ethereal body, right? Ethereal light body. All of that is in play, all of it. So um, when we have traumatic memories from the past, right? That's you keep hopping to the timeline of that event and just living there. Well, why the fuck would I do that? Because you have a mission there. You had a mission there, and your mission is still incomplete. Okay. So your body's not doing this to you, it's doing this for you. This was a lesson that your soul chose so that you can be the best you, the true you, and not be run by this false self. So the way the body helps you that way is it takes these moments where um, there was a perceived absence of love in God, and it's stored it there. It's a hole in your field, right? If you're not complete until you have God and love, then any time that you were incomplete, there's a hole in your field. So it stores it in your fascia, it stores it in your tissues, it stores it in your causal body and your astral body as well. All your timelines experience this. All the dimensional versions of you experience this because it's about your total evolution and growth. So fundamentally speaking, that's what happens. Scientifically speaking, it's neurological charge that gets stored in tissue. And the survival mechanism for that is you need to remember where the tigers are at in your village. Last time we were around this corner, I almost died. I'm going to go around the other corner. Right? That's a practical explanation for it. Um, the way I approach this stuff is first soul lesson. Like, what is um, what is the biggest takeaway from this experience that you have not come to grips with yet? That's inviting somebody to look at it from a growth perspective, not a this is keeping me stuck. This is my fucking problem. I wish it would go away. No, this is the greatest gift you've ever been given. How boring would life be if you didn't fucking ruminate on this 24/7? Right? So, because you have no purpose, but your life would be really boring. But when you get rid of this, now we can find your purpose. Your purpose is not to heal your trauma. You heal your trauma so you can act your purpose. And so, how do we do that? Well, we got to get in touch with the soul mission to find out who I truly am, not who I think I am, and not who I'm not. Welcome to I am. Okay. So let's dismantle all the things that come after I am, and let's just integrate the I am, who, by the way, is also God, who, by the way, is also you. Are you saying I'm God? Yeah. You think you created everything? No, because I'm saying you're God too. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was with the Word. Anything that was made was made from the Word and God. You think that was a joke? Everything emanates from Source, including you. You have that divine spark. And it's actually that divine spark that is letting you cry it out right now. It's that divine spark that's letting you suffer right now. Because you have to know what it feels like to be completely absent of God in order for you to appreciate God. So we find out what the true mission is. We find out what, in knowing what our true mission is, we can separate the wheat from the chaff. We can bring a sword like Christ did. We can separate from all that is not us. Stop living that lie. And then we can release it out of the body through intentional movement, active imaginations, meditations, um, direct conversations with God, direct conversations with these parts of our body. People think that's fucking nuts, but it's not. You should go into your body to meditate. You got a tight hip flexor. You got an ankle that won't heal. Go and talk to that ankle. You'll get something. You'll get something. So we've got to remove the lie. We've got to integrate the soul mission, and we've got to remove the stored memory out of the body because the lesson is over. We don't need it anymore. I'm gonna let you go. So then this
That's
ties in
beautiful.
soul fracture work, inner child work, timeline work, all that. It all ties in. I don't care how far on the weeds you get if you haven't hit the foundational stuff, the inadequacy, the false self, the powerlessness. You're just playing games with yourself. You're just playing games with yourself. You're hopping to 5D, you haven't figured out 3D. You're always going to be pulled back to 3D because that's where the lesson needs to be learned.
It's so beautiful to see how people on different continents they have their different therapies, holistic therapies, and they all resonate. Like I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the Mace method in Australia.
I have heard of Mace. Remind me what that is, though.
Okay, so
I've
I
heard of it.
interviewed one of the founders a couple years back, and we use it a few times. We still use it for some people, and it's very helpful. But it's the same idea where you're going to find trauma. Your mind will make a like a cartoon character. I don't want to just get too much because I'm not a practitioner, but your body holds the trauma in say a file,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then you're going to reprint that file, and they go
Okay,
through a
great.
process a few times, and one or two times, and it'll automatically have a ripple effect. And I've seen it happen where it's just like you're holding a trauma in a certain area that you can't label, you can't figure it out,
Yeah,
but they put you in a position where you're kind of in theta a little bit, and
Yep.
then they do some work on that, and then within 1 or 2 sessions, like they said, they should never see you a third or fourth session normally. It's
Yep.
it's that kind of quick once
They're
you go after
recoding
that
the
part of
implant.
it. Yeah.
They're recoding the implant. Yep.
And that's and then when you said implant, I'm like, that's I said for me, I'm always trying to figure out because I've got kids and I'm trying to figure out how to explain these conversations that they're not getting elsewhere in a functional manner. And they're
Yeah.
talking when I
Practical,
talk to
right?
them, they don't just talk to me. They're going to talk. They all talk to their friends. So my
Yep.
13-year-old son is going to go talk to his 13-year-old buddies and 12 and 14-year-olds, and they're going to be like, "Wait, what?
Yeah.
The soul
Yep.
conscious program? I like
Right.
implant better. I like implant.
Yep. And
That
then so this is like, now we can get into the initiate phase here. It's like, so these implants exist like in physical, the causal, the ethereal and astral bodies. Um, and so you it's very helpful. I hate to, I got to watch you using hyperbolic words like you have to or you must, but in my program, you have to and you must. Uh, find the implants in the spirit, find the implants in the soul, find the implants in the physical body as well, because they're all delivering the same message, right? So it's like you might have a soul lesson that creates a physical lesson, right? You remove the physical constraints, and maybe symptoms go away, but the integration hasn't happened. So later on down the road, more symptoms are going to come up. It's all about the integration. The things we want to make go away are actually our gold that has been like overexpressed. The person who draws boundaries, they have goal. Their goal is making other people feel worthy, right? So what do? They draw boundaries and they cut people off. Well, they're not shining their own gold. Well, you tell me what happens when you don't shine your own gold ever. All right. So we have to recognize where these implants are, recode them in all the bodies. And again, when I say have to, in my program,
right.
uh, and then that's where integration takes. And it's all we get really out in the weeds with all this stuff. We really do.
I'm gonna
Get
ask you. I'm gonna go out in
sensationalized.
the weeds right now with you, Jerry.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's do it.
so when you are talking about some of this trauma and maybe the physical side, and they have these studies where they're saying, a certain amount of generations past, you can even hold trauma from your past. So this could be a trauma that you haven't even had in your lifetime. Have you seen that in your own work, so that
Yeah,
you hold
absolutely,
trauma from
absolutely.
the past
Totally.
generations? Maybe we don't know what it is, but it
Yep.
triggers us
Yep.
immediately.
Yep. And like, so we, again, we can get really sexy with this and we can get really sensational with it, and we can add all these like esoteric terms to it. But think about it in terms of, like, do you remember old cassette tapes and CDs
Of course.
back in the day, right? Maybe some
Oh
of the
yeah.
audience know what the fuck we're
Mixed
talking
tapes,
about.
baby. Mixed
Right.
tapes.
Yeah. CD, is that a cash deposit? I don't go to banks. Um, but you think about like, how the fuck do you take like, remember like if you were like me, you make your own mixtapes and stuff, right? So you put this cassette in here and then you put this one goes on play, this one goes on record, right? At
Oh
the
yeah.
end of the album, like that one, like how does that happen? Oh, but it happens, doesn't it? Yeah. Same fucking thing. Same fucking thing. Like whatever that process is that takes the frequency, converts it to vinyl or whatever shit that was made out of, and gets it to where you can put it in a tape player and it plays it back. It's the same science. It's the same shit. So whatever happened to your grandma, your mom, your draconian uncle, fucking that attacked Lyra, 22 million years ago. Like whatever.
Right.
Whatever happened there created a code that got imprinted onto vinyl, which is your fascia, your nervous system. Um, uh, sorry, fascia made me think of space plasma and the connection there, which is woo fascinating. But
You're going down another rabbit hole. I love that one too.
yeah, I was like,
You go too.
Dewey, boy. But so really, we don't have to like think of it as like this because the more sensational we make it, the more sensational the process must be to integrate it.
Yeah.
So now I got to find this fucking shamanic specialist that does the CHEK records and can administer ayahuasca ceremony and and it's like, no, you just got to recognize what's on that cassette tape and record something over it. That's
And
your
I
mission.
do, and I do see a lot of people that I do care for. And they're good friends of mine, where they keep doing the toad. They keep doing the ayahuasca. They keep,
Dude,
and I get it. Do your
you
thing.
do your thing. I'm not judging you for doing that, but it's not healing you. It's not. It's changing neural programs. Yes. Is it affecting your default mode network? Yes. Is it affecting your like ACC and your PNN? Yes.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the code that got you disintegrated, what's the recode that you're going to do with this new neural pattern? You're just going to create the new code. It's just you've erased the etch a sketch for a while
Yeah.
and you're going to continue to the same pattern. It's going to be less loud, but you're going to continue that same pattern. Why? Because that root inadequacy belief is still creating the false identity. The false identity believes that my only problem is my trauma and it's in my brain because that's what the scientist said. So if I go rewire my brain, everything will be different. Well, you're right. Everything will be different when you wake up, but what have you done about the root? I stopped drawing boundaries. Why did you draw boundaries? Because I don't value myself. Why don't you value yourself? I've never been taught to. Why is that important? Programming? Why is that important? Right? Because you're not your parents. And as long as you want to try to keep being your parents, you're going to be disappointed because you're not your parents. And you don't need your parents' approval to keep going. And guess what? God loves you whether or not your fucking mom and dad show you love.
Well, that's what I think what you're doing and what, Paul Check's doing. You guys are helping people learn their lessons faster and or at all for that matter.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the way you stated that. We let people learn their lessons. I don't do anything for anybody. I don't do anything to anybody. I don't take credit for anybody's growth because it's not mine to take.
And I
It's
see that
all,
in your work. You're not trying to answer people's questions. You're raising questions.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
And
love
I
the way you
played the
do
game for
that.
a while. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I played that game for a while where here's some helpful information, and I found that helpful information is just dangerous because in
Hmm.
this world, this is the world of people that flake on appointments and this is what they call trauma response. No, it's a lack of accountability is what it is. It's a lack of personal accountability. Stop calling it something pretty. It's a lack of personal accountability. You using your trauma and your narcissistic abuse as an excuse to narcissistically abuse other people. Well, I don't narcissistically abuse people. Oh, do you ever fucking flake out on friend appointments? Do you have a hard time committing to someone who's trying to reach out to you? Oh yeah, I do all that. Yeah, do you have any idea how hard it is to stay close to you when you do that? How hard that friend is trying. Do you make appointments and not show up? Yeah, sometimes, but I just get so overwhelmed. Stop it. How? Well, there is a way.
And
So
I
sorry.
want you.
I appreciate the way you phrase that, man. I really do.
Oh, I thank you, Jay. Like I said, you've made me definitely. I enjoy your questions, and I try to answer them when you ask them too. So if I see one of your TikTok posts, I'm right there with you, trying to
Yeah, bro.
have my own analysis and reflect on it. And one of the things that I've definitely I see with your popularity and the amount of questions you're getting, people are, as much as it's irritating, they're getting engagement. And I beginning of my own journey, I was definitely more pessimistic. I was excited for my own self to find the journey, but I also, as a whole for the world, I thought it wasn't. I thought more doom and gloom a little bit. But as
Uh-huh.
I've spent
Yeah, the
time
black pill
in
shit.
this, okay, guys, because I want to hear your own reflection on it. And now with the internet the way it is, and I think if we're looking towards that, the frequencies and the power versus force, and this is just a purely physical mathematical equation in my mind. Love and authenticity resonates faster and stronger with more power than sadness, depression, and anxiety. We don't need as many people at this higher level to have a gigantic, huge change in the frequency of the consciousness that we have. And we're there. You can feel it. It's piercing, it's painful, but it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. You couldn't have said it more beautiful. Like, not everybody's cut out to be a shepherd. Shepherds are initiates. Shepherds are selected. That doesn't Don't get it confused with chosen ones and all that. Like nothing against those. It's just not my vibe, right? Chosen
Yeah.
ones, seven. That's not my vibe. Um, but they've been chosen to lead, and that's why you were given the personality you were given. It's not a hindrance. Like you're supposed to be a shepherd, and sheep are sheep, and that's not an insult. It just means you were designed to do something else. Maybe you were designed to nurture. Maybe you were decide to or designed um, to be a comforting influence among the flock. Like that, we need all kinds, but these sheep are being led to slaughter, right? So if you're a shepherd and you see other shepherds leading people to slaughter, it's your duty to say, don't go with that shepherd. We were commanded to do that. We were commanded to do that. Don't let someone else's dogma and someone else's fear stop you from doing that. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, if you've got a voice that you haven't been using because of the 20% of comments that are going to be on your post, and I can fully resonate. Like I've been taking more time off lately, haven't been responding to comments, um, just because like I just don't need that negativity. Even though you don't take it personal, like I take the shepherd role where if I see something that I think is like actually this right here is a key indication of the big problem we have here. Why people are leaving Jesus, why people are becoming atheist, um, then yeah, I'll make a reply video on it. And to make that reply video, I've got to get in a certain state. I got to get find that Jerry that fuck you guy. Let's go. You want okay? You want to poke? You want to swat the hornet's nest? Let's
Poke
fly,
the
baby.
bear.
Let's here's a stinger. Let's go. Right. Um, and that brings up a good point too. In this world, we just think our emotions are bad or humanity is bad, which is the biblical stance, guys. That's biblical, right? The only problem with you is your humanity. Oh, what do I do with that? Fry in hell, right? Well, that doesn't sound very good, right? Um, but yeah, that's the human. I kind of lost my train there, but that is the human element, right? That is the human element that is in play, and that is what has been beaten out of us. So if you've got something that you need to say and you haven't been because of that 20%, please speak up. When I do those videos, I get that hornet's nest out. I'm intentionally lowering my frequency. I'm intentionally getting in this state of protection. And guess what? If you're getting chased by a wild animal in the woods, your vibration's not that high. Okay, you're gonna be you're gonna be a narcissist real quick. It's gonna be you're gonna hope you could run faster than your friend. So so in this love and light community, in this spiritual game, you become just like religion if you think that your humanity is bad. So the mission, you should never try to get rid of all your anger. You should never try to get rid of any parts of you that you previously deemed negative because they are part of you too. And God gave them to us for a reason, gave us anger for a reason, gave us disappointment for a reason. And that's so we can use it.
I think the way you said it was so beautifully said. I think the concept that people have a hard time swallowing in almost every, especially in the Christian community, but almost every religious community, is God created everything, the good, the
Hmm.
bad, the dark energy, the bad. You can't have one without the other.
Literally all of it. Yeah, literally all of
All of
it.
it. They all have a
Yeah,
purpose. It's not,
yeah,
it's all well thought out. It's well designed, well past our mental function.
yep.
And holding negative energy is you just holding, you're holding the negative energy. You're
It.
creating that.
That's it.
You don't need
That's
to
it.
put it anything more than those things happen to you for you. And
Amen.
that little transition. So that's
Amen.
why, Coach Jerry, that's one of those things where I think the ripple effect, it's happening faster than we can even pass my expectations. But I do think that the baton is passed to the younger generation, and they're gripping
Yeah.
onto it tight,
Yep.
and
Yep.
there's no way they're going to let it go.
Totally. Totally. I mean, you just walk in any like, Sunday school class or something and look at the looks on the kids' faces. Oh, this is fun. Jesus. Well, you know what? They think Santa's pretty neat too. You know, like, hello. So,
Jay, well, the last thing I always go on to is where we can people find more of you. Obviously, you're on TikTok. Give your TikTok handle. Then, um, other ways for people to get a hold of you. Is it pretty much TikTok, or do you have other?
yeah, I mean, pretty much TikTok. Like, I got a couple websites and stuff, but like, just reach out to me direct, man. If you're interested, if anybody's interested in talking, that's generally like the vibe I get from people is like, hey, no, I just want to talk to you. Like, that's cool. If you want to reach out to me direct. You can peruse my websites if you want.
Yeah, shout them out. What do you
You're
got? Give
welcome
me some
to.
websites
Yeah,
for them
yeah,
to
yeah.
go to.
So, let's see. Biohacking truth.com is my main
Name.
website. And then the other one is like it's Awaken Life at GoDaddySites.com. So I just created that for like a funnel for some ads I was doing. But that gives you some insight into like my like the different services like and you can
Well,
you can
make sure
access.
to send it to me, and
Yeah, I'll
I'll
send it to
post it
you.
on
Put it in
the
the email.
YouTube
Yep.
link, and then I'll post it on the TikTok links as well.
Yep.
So
Yep. But yeah, I honestly my favorite way to connect with people is direct. I love all people, but the more serious you are about your spiritual development, about your personal development, like honestly, the more interesting conversation we're gonna have. The conversations aren't very interesting for those just kicking tires, or those just curious about like, where did you get that? Just curious. I'll tell you right now. Look into Gnosticism. Look into works of Rudolf Steiner, Paul Chek. If you want my sources, like look into that shit. Dr. Stephen Walensky. Anything you can find on Enneagram personality. I put that link in the site. So if that's what you want to reach out to me for, that's where you can get it. But if you're serious and you want to fucking dig deep, let's go. Let's go. Reach out to me direct.
And Jerry's no joke. If you guys watch some of his TikTok videos, you're gonna love it. Except you probably have 4 or 5 therapy sessions just in TikTok videos, maybe even more if you spend enough time on his TikTok channel. And I just want to say how much I appreciate what you're doing, obviously for
Likewise.
this interview, but just more of what you're doing as a brother, as a an air god. I don't know what labels we want to put on it, but I know your consciousness was needed, and it fired me up. like I said, I spent some time working on some more physical sides of healing and helping some other projects, and it kind of took me away. But it's after watching you, and you're probably my favorite TikTok channel right now to kind of
I appreciate you,
get
man.
lost into a little bit. Like I said, I appreciate you and I'm thankful for you.
No, I appreciate that, man. Like, I'll be honest, like 80% of the stuff I put out there, I'm like, that's kind of dumb, whatever, whatever, But I just put it out there, it's like how my authentic thoughts in the moment. And so, I'm like anyone else, right? Like, oh, I could have edited this better. I should have added some B-roll or something like that. So I go through that too, you guys. Um, so what you just said just shows like the lies that can lead us, when you put some stuff out that you're not sure is whatever, and then people are really appreciating it. It just shows, the truth versus illusion.